Hello everyone, welcome to my balcony garden. Today's video is another bulb video. I'm planting snowdrops into this pot here. The variety I'm planting is Waranowiai, a lovely mouthful there. Hugely popular variety of snowdrop. It has an RHS Award of Garden Merit. They grow to around 15 centimetres. They have these beautiful bright green leaves. It's quite different to the glaucous leaves that you often see with other snowdrops. And of course it has this beautiful white nodding head with the green spots on it. I just love it. I've grown snowdrops for a number of years on my balcony actually. They've always done really well like the other bulbs. I've just never got around to making a video, so I'm going to do that for you now. Snowdrops are what we call bulbous herbaceous perennials. They're native to Europe and the Middle East. They're also commonly referred to as a harbinger of spring. So we start to see snowdrops emerging from kind of mid-January onwards. They're one of the first bulbs to emerge, actually first plants to emerge in the new year, in the growing season, the beginning of the growing season. And because they're one of these earlier plants, they have their growth cycle completed before the other plants, sort of the larger plants, so the trees or bushes, before they start to wake up and start to put out leaves. So before that canopy is full, they've completed their life cycle. So it's actually very clever. But anyway, let's get to it. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is to make sure that you have healthy bulbs. If you give them a nice squeeze, they should be firm to the touch. And check them out for any signs of pests and diseases. If you see mold or anything that doesn't look good, I would already discard the bulbs because they're not going to grow. It's just a sad, simple fact, and I've had to accept that over the years that I do discard bulbs. I'm a bit brutal now, to be honest, because it's just a waste. They're not going to grow. So these ones are looking beautiful and healthy. Make sure you also buy from a reputable company with bulbs. They do know how to treat them, prepare them for the best results. So I have chosen this terracotta pot. I always grow all my bulbs in terracotta pots. This one has a drainage hole, very important. You can also pop a bit of crockery at the bottom to stop the soil falling out. I normally just leave it, put maybe like a little tray there, but I do actually have some broken crockery from a pot I had to smash because the pot got stuck in another pot. So I'm not going to do it for this one because it means I have to go out onto the balcony, but this one should be fine. The pot is small anyway. I think it's about 15 centimetres deep, maybe by 17 centimetres in diameter. Terracotta pots are great for bulbs because the pot is porous. So it's going to be releasing water, leaching water out the sides. And we don't want our bulbs ever sitting in water at any point. So the fact that the water is always being released from the sides of the pots is always a good thing. Like every bulb, snowdrops have this perfect sweet depth that they love to sit at in the soil. For this variety here, it's about 8 centimetres. And of course, this is going to influence what size of pot I choose because there needs to be, that's about 8 centimetres there, so I'm going to be planting my bulbs there, and I need at least 5 centimetres underneath for space for the roots to grow down. And I think this pot is going to be fab, so let's get planting. Alrighty, so I have beautiful, a very good quality peat-free multi-purpose compost right here. And I've actually mixed in large bits of grit, and you can also mix in sand. This is going to help with drainage. As I say in all my bulb videos, the soil or the compost that the bulbs are growing in needs to be free draining. They need to be able to retain moisture, but they also need to be able to let it go. So a good quality multi-purpose peat-free compost is going to do that anyway, but you can also just help with the drainage by mixing in some sand and grit. It's not essential. I tend to do it, but it's gardener's choice. So I have filled my pot up. I'm just firming gently down as I go. So that now is probably around 8 centimetres from the top, so I'm happy with that level there. Oops, almost tipped all over the place. So it's time to pop our bulbs in. Now, bulbs have a top and a bottom. The bottom is this basal plate here. You can see the remnants of roots. So we want that to be at the bottom, the flat part there, and then the pointy bit, this is where the foliage and the flowers emerge from. We want that at the top. I love a full display of bulbs, so I tend to pack them very tightly in. Actually, with snowdrops, they tend to grow in clumps anyway, so when they're tight together like this, they should be fine. Make sure that the bulbs are never touching the sides of the pots or each other. I've left around 2 to 3 centimeters between each one. And I'm just working my way around planting them. I think I could just plant bulbs all day, every day for the rest of my life, and I'd be happy. I love them so much. Okay, so this is looking fabulous. So I'm just gonna top up the rest of the pot with the same multi-purpose compost. Oops, oh, see, there we go, I need to put that one back down. Yep, just fill it in, gently firming down. And there we have it. Okay, so let's talk about the next step. So first of all, you want to make sure you give this pot a beautiful, big, deep drink. We want all the soil to be wet, and we especially want the bulbs to feel that moisture, because once we plant the bulbs, they actually start to grow, so they're going to start putting down roots, and we want them to start to take up this moisture from the water so they can grow, take up nutrients, establish themselves, all that jazz. I forgot to mention labels. Oh, labels, the bane of my life. I actually have just done a mass planting of bulbs, so I've used all my labels. I don't have any left here, but I would really recommend always labeling your pots, because if you're anything like me and you plant lots of bulbs and pots in autumn and winter, you kind of forget which one's which. It is a nice, sometimes it's a nice surprise when you plant something and you've forgotten you've done it, but I'd still recommend doing a label. So yeah, pop a label in as well. Then place this in an area where it's going to receive lots of sun. It's also sheltered from the wind. For me, that is always right there. When you go out into the balcony on the right hand side, there is the tiered shelves. I like to put pots there, and also when you go out into the balcony underneath the large planter, it's also sheltered and it does receive light. And then with watering over winter, just let the winter weather do its thing. If you notice at any point that the bulbs or that the soil is drying out, just give it a water, and make sure that the bulbs or the pots are never sitting in water. As I mentioned before, if they're sitting in water at any point, they're going to rot. If they're sitting in a tray, just tip the tray out. If the weather conditions where you are get really, really cold, think about bringing your pots inside, especially if they're terracotta pots, because they do run the risk of exploding. So they freeze and then they expand and they explode, and then, you know, it was all for nothing. You can also protect them with horticultural fleece, or pop some sort of plastic container over it just to keep the really cold ice frost out of the pots. But other than that, snowdrops are really tough little plants. They'll be able to deal with the cold weather. And then hopefully from sort of mid-January onwards, we're going to start to see the foliage emerge. Once we start to see that, make sure that you water them regularly, and then just enjoy the spectacle. So that was my video on how to plant snowdrop bulbs into pots. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did and you would like to support the channel, subscribe. I hope you're all staying safe and well. I send you all my good wishes as ever, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.